First, general things. So club head speed came out as 120. And then this is about 110. It's elite men's average. So including professionals, college players, and then some teaching professionals. So you're generating more speed than the average. And then when it is normalized to your body height, still you are generating more than normal. So that's good. But one thing, overall swing time here. This is the average swing time for elite men. You are using a bit more time here. So this generally means you have a slow backswing. And then I recommend speeding up of the backswing. So you have a bit faster backswing. And also, this is the club head speed graph here. The peak is pretty much at the center of the backswing. So from here to here is the backswing. And then this is pretty much at the center here. But I want to see this peak more toward this side here. So then initially you can start a bit slower, but pick up the speed and then make the club a bit faster toward the end of the backswing. Then that will be better connected to the downswing. Okay? So I want to see the peak more on this side, and then speed up the backswing. Now, this is the top view. This large rectangle, this is your swing plane. So it's calculated from the club head motion. It's outward, about 4 degrees outward. So this is the target line. This is your hand motion plane. So calculate from the hand motion. Again, it's outward by about 6.2 degrees. So the hands are slightly more outward than this, but these are fairly well aligned. So I want to see these planes are relatively well aligned to each other. Then, your hand motion and the club head motion are pretty much in the same direction here.
So almost parallel.
Yeah, so it'll be easier to control the direction. And then, so at the time of impact here, so this is the actual direction of the club head at impact. So the club head motion is more outward. That means you have to use good draw spin to bring the ball to the center. If you hit up slightly upward, then this will be adjusted more this way here. Or you may need to realign the plane so that it'll be closer to the target line. But so because if swing plane is more away from the target line, then you have to use a lot of side spin. Yeah. And now, everything is aligned along the swing plane here. This straight line here, this is the swing plane. So we are just looking at the whole thing along the swing plane, close to down the line, but slightly different because it's along the swing plane. And then your club head path here. So in the backswing, it goes above the swing plane here, and good looping motion, and then coming down here. I like this shape here. So if this is swing plane, go a bit above, and then making this loop and coming down here. So that you don't have to have excessive shallowing, intentional shallowing here. So what happens is, this is when pretty much the club head is located the most away from the swing plane here. And then as the downswing progresses, it's coming a bit closer. So this is kind of natural shallowing motion here. So instead of intentionally try to drop this, rather go a bit higher and then coming to a reasonable swing plane, that's a better strategy. Yeah. So I like this loop here. And then so from here to here, this is the endopelvis rotation. So endopelvis rotation, the club head is here. And then this is top of backswing here. And then the club head was dropped relative to the hand. So now the club head and the hands equally deviated from the swing plane here. That means your club is parallel to the swing plane, which is good. So I want to see this kind of shallowing during the transition phase from the pelvis transition point to a club transition point. Then when you have a reasonable shallowing here, that you don't have to intentionally create a lot of shallowing, club shallowing during the downswing.
So the green line is the club. Right?
The green line is the relative position of the club head to the hands.
Okay.
So when it's a 0, that means both are deviated from the string plane equally. And then the red line is the hand position from the string plane. So it's deviated here. It's a bit too much. The average is about 20 some here. And then during the downswing, it is gradually coming down toward the swing plane here. So this is a bit more than typical. So when this happens, your hand motion plane will be steeper than usual. But your hand motion plane is also hand motion is fairly consistent toward the swing plane and touch the swing plane and go up here. So the shape is reasonable. And then also at the top, you will see that it appears that your leg is more straightened here. The trail leg is more straightened. So the left knee sticks out this. This is good posture here. Okay. Instead of moving the hip backward quite a bit here. And then the slope of the swing plane is about 48 degrees. So for your height, it's between 47 degrees and 48 degrees. So it's reasonable. And then the hand motion plane is 61 degrees. So about 13 degrees steeper than the hand. That's a bit more than typical. On the average, it's about 9 degrees.
Okay.
But it's because your hand position is a bit high here. But on the way down, you are bringing this down quite well here. So here you have a clean planar motion here. So in terms of the shape of the swing plane and then the relative motion of the club head to the swing plane, it's good.
Okay.
Okay?
So you don't want me to be shallower in terms of the hand position?
I think this is okay. So this looping here, and then the club head is moving down here, so it naturally gives good shallowing motion. Because before you reach the top of backswing, the club head is already moving toward the swing plane, but not too much.
Okay.
So when you keep it in the downswing, then nicely it will come to the swing plane here, like this. So already from here, this is slightly away from the swing plane, but quite close to the swing plane here. So you have good planar motion here. So I wouldn't worry about that. Okay. Center of mass motion here. The red line here shows the center of mass motion, whole body center of mass motion. So it's moving away from the target, it's going up, and then diagonally down to this low point, and then diagonally up here to impact here. And then particularly here, your high point is around 5 here, which is end of pelvis rotation. So pelvis rotation completes at this point here. So this is the beginning of the transition phase. So it's a high point at that point. And then at the bottom here, it's 8, so which is when the club is at the low point here. The club is about vertical here, which is also good timing here. So in terms of timing of the high point, the timing of the low point is reasonable. And also, this point is lower than the initial position here. So that means that your center of mass drops more, and then eventually going up here, which is good. Okay? So you are dropping the center of mass so that you can push the ground hard in the downswing here.
But I almost feel like I don't push it hard enough, like on the way up, or is that okay?
On the way up, you can bring this a bit higher here.
Okay.
That means that you have to push the ground good with the right leg here.
I have to push it more with the right leg.
Considering your body size, this force is not that large at this point here. If we go to the force view here, This one, this is the peak force here. This line here, this arrow here. This has to go a bit more, a bit higher.
You say that line is that connected to.
This arrow,
Okay.
this arrow is the sum of these two forces.
Okay.
The combined effect here. And this can be bigger. And so this can go a bit higher. So when you have active trail leg, not just putting more weight on this side and then less on this side. When you have an active push, then this will go a bit more. Yeah, this can be a bit bigger. But now let's go back to the center mass here. So this motion, the dropping the center mass to this level, lower than the initial, this is good. Yeah, this means you have reasonably good vertical interaction. But again, I want you to see more upward motion, more active push.
So if would that correspond into more downward, like vertical?
Yeah, so when you have a good push from this side, after that you will have the so-called unweighting. Yeah. So push here and then push hard here. In between these pushes, you have good unweighting automatically.
Okay.
But yeah, I want to see a bit harder push on this side here. Then this will go up here, and then again drop here and then push. Okay. The pelvis motion here. The pelvis motion. The lower one is rotational motion of the pelvis. The upper one is a translational motion of the pelvis. Now the red line down here, this is the rotation. So you are rotating to the right, and then it ends here. So this is called the end of pelvis rotation, or pelvis transition point here. And then this is top of backswing, and 10 is impact here. And then these are reasonably balanced. This is elite men's average. Elite men means tour professionals, college players, and then some teaching professionals. But you are about at the average. Here you are turning about a bit more than the average. But these are reasonably balanced, so you are not turning this way too much, or this way too much. And then this blue line shows the lateral tilt pelvis. In other words, the hip goes up and down here. So as the backswing progresses here, the angle increases in magnitude. This is the left tilt. So left side is lower, right side is higher. So you're going this way here. And then this angle is good here, about 20 degrees. This is good. And then here you have opposite motion here. From this lateral tilt position, now you start moving this way here. And then once you pass this point, the left side is now higher than the right side. So you end up with a bit higher left hip position than the right hip. But I think you can go a bit more. Okay. Pushing the ground actively and then stay on the lead foot.
Lead foot. Okay. So you said 10 is end of is impact or is it end of the swing?
Which one?
The 10?
10 is impact.
Impact. Okay.
So at impact here, you can have the left hip even higher relative to the right. For that, you have to push the ground and then keep the left hip high. But this green line shows some issues here. This is associated with this red line here. Now this side here, this is the translational motion. The red line shows a forward-backward motion. Then the green shows away and then toward motion. And then blue shows down and up motion. The down and up is really good here. So stays here and then starts going down to this point here. And you have a rapid upward motion here. So the upward motion of the pelvis is good. And then moving away and then gradually moving toward the target. But this one can go a bit more rapidly and then reach it almost the zero position. That means going back to your initial position instead of still staying away. But I think this is okay. But the only thing is this red line and this green line here. This green line shows a forward and backward tilt of the pelvis. And then this red line shows a forward-backward motion of the pelvic center of mass.
Okay.
And then it shows relatively more forward tilt.
Okay.
It's because the pelvis is actually moving backward. So pelvis is moving backward compared to initial position here. So when the pelvis moves backward, then your pelvis has to tilt forward more. So this is a lot more forward tilted than the initial position here, and that this is a lot more posterior or the backward position than the initial position here. So you have tendency of moving the pelvis backward during the swing. Normally, it should go forward here, and then slight backward motion, and then more forward motion here.
Okay.
But you are starting from the beginning, you're moving backward. So that's why.
So for the last year, I haven't been able to play on tour because I've been having lower back pain, and it's very close to the pelvis, like SI joint area. So do you think there's something to do with the motion of
When the pelvis tilts forward here and then slide back, it can put a burden here. Rather, your pelvis has to show a slightly backward tilt here.
Okay.
So pelvis shows a less inclination forward, less tilt forward.
So more posterior.
When you try to hit the ball really hard here in the downswing, the pelvis actually should show a bit backward tilted position here. That means this cannot go down here. This actually has to be above the zero line here. So it will show posterior tilt. When it goes up, it's a backward tilt and slight forward tilt, and then more backward tilt. That means at impact, your pelvis will be a more upright alignment than going the opposite way here. But you are going the opposite, so it shows quite a bit of forward tilt. And then at impact, you are restoring it a little bit. But this actually has to go a bit more here, up. This has to go up here. So at impact, when you really using the force here, your pelvis has to show slightly backward tilted position.
So you're saying that I'm more back and with that.
So because your pelvis is sliding backward here. So they can certainly put the burden on the spine in the back here. So again, the forward tilt and then backward motion, this can be something you need to pay attention to here. The X factor, that's a separation between the shoulder line and the hip line here. So it's showing this X shape here. So when these two lines are parallel to each other, then it's a zero here. Then as the shoulder turns more, then we have separation, torsional separation. So the X factor increases. So up to this point, the X factor keeps increasing at this pace here. So slope is steeper here. Then once you pass this point, the slope decreases. So you have two-stage motion in the backswing. So probably because you initially try to turn quickly here, and then try to bring this back here, instead of using one motion through this.
Do you think if I get faster with the backswing, that would also help?
Yeah, when you have a faster motion, then you tend to have a one-piece motion.
Okay.
Then the change in slope, disappears here.
Okay.
So when this happens, then toward the second half of the backswing here, the X factor is not increasing that much because now shoulders and the pelvis is pretty much rotating together. Then you know that your body is not ready. Then you try to increase this here. So this is top of action, and you have maximum here. So you have a further increase in the X factor because the pelvis is now opening.
So do you think the separation also? I'm trying to think from an injury standpoint because the more I play golf, the more I feel like there's pain. So do you feel like the separation also might be causing that, or?
Yeah. So what happens is, in order to increase this X factor more from here to here, what you have to do is go here, and then you're already moving the pelvis this way. by moving the pelvis faster than the shoulders in the downswing direction, you are creating that separation.
Okay.
But if you have active one-piece motion during the backswing, then what happens is as the shoulders are still rotating this way, simply by slowing down the pelvis, you can create this separation. That's this section here.
Okay.
So this is 5 and 6 here. This is endopelvis rotation.
Okay.
This is top of backswing here. So from here to here, pelvis started rotating this way, but the shoulders are still rotating this way.
Okay.
With that, because these are rotating in the opposite direction, you can naturally increase the separation, right? But there, you don't have much separation. Rather, once downswing starts, you try to rotate the pelvis faster. So the better way is using the momentum here. When you have faster backswing here, using the momentum, just one piece motion all the way to the end here. Then, because the momentum here, the shoulder still wants to go this way, pelvis slows down, it keeps separating, and when the pelvis starts rotating slightly in the opposite direction, still this is going this way here, you have a further increase. So what happens is, during the backswing, when you reach the top of backswing, here you have a maximum separation. Particularly during the transition phase, from between 5 and 6, you have a good separation here. But because you already slowed down here, this is continuing for a while here, and then not much increase in this phase, then you try to increase more on the way down. That again introduces more early opening of the pelvis. So speed up the backswing, and then using the momentum and create this separation here. This increase in the X factor beyond the endopelvis rotation is called the X factor stretch.
Okay.
And then between 5 and 6 here, this is a backswing stretch, because stretch happens during the backswing still. But from here to maximum here, the difference is a downswing stretch. In order to create downswing stretch, you have to open the pelvis fast early. So it just gives excessive pelvis motion.
So you're saying it's better if I have more downswing stretch?
Backswing stretch.
More backswing stretch.
Using the momentum. Downswing, if you have a downswing stretch like this, then that means a poor backswing.
Okay.
Because
so
you're
it should spike, it should hit at top and the
at top of backswing. And then you already have good separation here from there just to go down instead of try to move the pelvis first here. But this is misconception in my perspective. This is mistaught by the instructors. Because in order to increase the X factor, you have to open the pelvis early, rotate the pelvis early, so that you can create this separation. But that means a poor backswing. You could have a lot more stretch during the backswing if you use the momentum strategy. So that's what I see here. So I want to see more continuous increase all the way to top of backswing, and then going down here. So what happens between this top here, and then as you go to this position, the pelvis is sliding and opening. And then this is the kinematic sequence. There are 3 kinematic sequences. The first one is the backswing sequence. It's based on the timings of a peak angular velocity. Angular velocity means rotational velocity. So in the backswing, the red line is the pelvis. Pelvis reaches peak angular velocity about here. And then the green line is thorax, blue is shoulders here. So pelvis, thorax, and shoulder, these are reaching peak angular velocity quite early in the backswing. So you have early quick motion here, then slow down gradually. So you're taking too much time here. But if you can move this to the center of the backswing, so the peak angular velocity of the pelvis occurs near the center of the backswing, then the pelvis, the thorax and shoulders here, then the arm angular velocity will be delayed here, then the club angular velocity will be further delayed here.
And should it be like a smooth arc? Because I see, is it the 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 pink one is like
This is wrist.
oh, that's wrist.
Yeah, the wrist complex. So it's a bit different. So if we ignore this for the moment, then the red line picks here, green here, blue here, gray here, and then this one here. But this one is generally happening about the center of the backswing. But this should be delayed. But it's not delayed. You have to actually shorten the backswing, and then you decrease this section here. So in this one, you are just hesitating, and then just gradually slowing down here. But if you sort of shorten this side here, naturally this will be positioned more at the center here. So in order to eliminate this, you have to use good momentum and then try to build good momentum toward the end of the backswing instead of early quick motion and then slow down. So it's a sort of early jerky motion here, and after that you have too much time here. Like when we walk, when we have reasonable speed, optimal speed, then we can minimize this motion here because you are moving more forward. And but if you are walking really slowly, then you have a lot of lateral motion. This is what happens when we get old. In the elderly gait, you see a lot of lateral motion. So unnecessary lateral motion. You waste a lot of energy there. Because your goal is to move forward, but you introduce a lot of lateral motion. So in the backswing, if your goal is to move the club head and the body around and then to this position here, then for this motion, you have to come up with a good acceleration and deceleration here. But if you have a quick early action, then you have too much time here. You have to slow, gradually going here, slowly here, right? Then there, we can have unnecessary movements. And you have two-stage backswing here. So it's just one piece and then active backswing to the target position. I don't think you are old enough to know this, but the first generation computer game was breaking blocks or bricks. You have bricks here, and then the ball is moving, and then hit it. Hit and then return. You move the pedal to return the ball, right? When the ball is reasonably fast, then you can easily move the pedal and then hit, because it'll give you optimal acceleration, deceleration pedal. So when you move the pedal from here to here, accelerate and then decelerate. When we always move, initially we accelerate and then later we decelerate. You have nice acceleration, deceleration curve, so you can easily move it here at the right timing. But if the ball is too slow,
you're hesitating.
now you have a lot of time here. So it's not continuous, nice speed up, slow down. Rather, you wait, and then later you have acceleration, or you have early motion, already move it there, and then wait. So then you have unnecessary time there. So this is what's happening here. Because you have early quick motion here, but from here to here, you have too much time here. So when you speed up the backswing, you can cut this time short here. Okay?
So you're okay with me taking it like the first piece going slow, but you want me to pick it up as soon
as if you are angry. When you try to hit something really hard, you don't do this. You don't hit like this, boom, right? So you're actually building the tension toward the end of the backswing. That's what I want to say. So initially it can be a bit slow, but eventually, and then build the tension, and using that tension, unwind and then hit the ball here. So it is important to cut down the time from the peak to the transition here. And then, so that's the backswing sequence. And then, but the most important sequence is the transition sequence. When the backswing is well connected to the downswing, you have a good, well separated transition. And then, so when I blow up this section, it's this one here. So pelvis first, thorax, shoulders, and then the arms and the club here. In general, so you have a central to peripheral sequence, but these can be better separated. So when you elongate the transition phase from the end of the pelvis rotation to top of backswing, which is the club transition point. So from pelvis transition to club transition, when you have an elongated time here, then you have a longer time period in which you can have really well separated transitions. So on one hand, speed up the backswing so that cut down the time here, but you need to have a mature transition phase here, elongated transition phase.
So how does that look? So you've given me an idea as to how the backswing looks, but how does, like, when you say a longer transition phase?
So it's like imagine a swing. You're riding a swing and your dad is pushing the swing. Then we have to wait until this motion completed and then push, right? So when you have an active motion, throwing, almost like a throwing action here, and then you have to wait until this is completed, slow down, and the finish, and then start the downswing, then automatically you have a good amount of time here. But you don't wait and then just try to pull it
It's
down.
almost like thinking I'm Hideki on the top.
You think it's a bit too much, but
No, but it's like, I mean, if I were to get there, I need to feel like I'm...
For you, you have to almost think like you are going to have a pose there.
Yeah.
And when Hideki was here, end of 2019, I strongly recommend against that long pose. At that time, he had extremely long pose.
He's gotten shorter now.
And then right after that, he started shortening it.
Yeah.
I explained him what happens because of the long pose. And then he took it. He took my advice. And then as soon as he returned to Japan for that Toto tournament, he started shortening the pose.
Yeah.
So yeah, now it's very different. But so overall, you have central to peripheral good sequence. This is good, but you need to elongate the transition phase, and it should be more active here. You have an active deceleration by using the momentum. So have an angry backswing here. So they put a lot of effort toward the end of the backswing. And then if you have a good motion here, then eventually you have to slow this down. Then your muscles will try to pull the upper body so that it can slow down. So you're already engaging these muscles. Then using the same muscle, you can start.
Is there any particular muscle group that you think is extremely important? Because if I want to spend a lot of time in the gym, is there...
No, you see, when you have a functional motion of the rotating, then all the muscles involved in rotation of the shoulders, that those should be engaged.
Okay.
But the thing is that you have to engage them in a stretch shortening cycle. That means when you have an active motion here, while the body is still rotating this way, imagine you have a spring here. Then as the spring gets elongated, it will build a tension. So it will slow down the motion. So you need to have this active slowdown component. The same thing, when the muscles are connected here, when your body is moving actively, then later you have to slow this down, then these muscles start pulling the shoulders. Then the shoulders will actively slow down, but still the muscle will be elongated.
Okay.
Then when the direction changes, the muscle shortens, the same group. So elongation followed by shortening is called a stretch shortening cycle. That's the ideal way of using the muscles. But when you go relatively slow, and particularly here, slow motion here, you lose that momentum. So it's not actively elongated. Okay. Then when you start this motion, the muscle is simply shortening. So you lose the lengthening component, active lengthening.
Okay.
It's called the active stretching. But still this is good enough. However, you can have a longer transition phase and a well separated transition here. So for that you have to speed up this part here.
The zero line, is that that's not impact.
This is angular velocity. So when it's a negative, that means it's rotating in the backswing direction.
Okay.
Positive means it's rotating in the downswing direction.
So zero is transition.
Yeah. Yeah. When they crosses the horizontal axis, these are the transition points.
Okay.
And then the next one is the downswing sequence here. The downswing sequence, you are reaching the peak angular velocities about here. This is good. It's early enough. So what's important is you generate enough angular velocity during the downswing, angular velocity of the body. When they reach peak value, then from here to impact, the body slows down quite a bit, and then the club keeps accelerating. So the pelvis has to lose a lot of angular velocity. Pelvis has to slow down quite a bit, and also the arms. And in your case, so this pink line is the wrist complex motion. When it's a negative, it's a cocking. Positive means uncocking. And then, so uncocking starts about here. So this is a delayed release, which is good. And also during the early part of downswing, the cocking angular velocity increases a little bit here, and then decreases, and then uncocking starts. So this shape is also good.
Okay.
And more than anything, your wrist complex angular velocity reaches this point here, above the man's average. Then your club angular velocity goes above man's average here. So you have good wrist complex motion. And the wrist complex motion, not only this motion and this motion here, this is really important. So you are using all these three motions.
But I've always been told that I have too much, like I throw that right elbow too much, because that translates into club face rotation.
It's because your swing plane is slightly outward.
Okay.
So that's why, and also your hands also go outward. And there you have a flipping motion here. It looks like a lot. But
So
if you change the direction slightly more along the direction of the target line, then you have less of this motion here. So less flipping. Yeah. So if you look at the hand pad here. So go up here, on the way down, the hands follow this path here, and then it touches the swing plane here, but then the hands move away from the swing plane here, touch, and then away here. So this is considered as a flipping here. Correct. That's why you're having a lot of this motion, because the hands are moving outward.
So if I just with the same wrist motion, if I just have the hand part moving.
If your hand pad is a bit more close to the body, then you don't have to do this much here. Naturally, you will just let it go. So when that happens, the swing plane and the hand motion plane are more aligned toward the target line. So, but the timing of peak angular velocity is good here. Particularly, you have really good wrist complex motion here. And then, now let's see how you are using the ground here. And then, so the middle one is the force, the ground reaction force you get from the ground. These arrows here, these arrows are the ground reaction forces. The middle one is the sum of these two. And then here the total force is equal to your body weight here. The unit here is body weight. So when we're just stationary on the ground, then the weight and the ground reaction force are equal to each other. So you're starting from the body weight, and then the force goes slightly over the body weight here. So this is called active push. Instead of just standing there, you're intentionally pushing. So the force increases here. So it goes above the body weight line. When this happens, then eventually later, the force has to go below the body weight line. This is called the unweighting.
But you were saying that you want me to have a little more push on the back.
Yeah, so then this has to be increased.
The line is a little high.
This has to be increased here. Around here, you have to increase this more. Then, always in the vertical direction, we are interacting with the ground in the form of active push and unweighting. You cannot keep pushing. If you keep pushing the ground, your body leaves the ground. So if your body stays on the ground, that means you have ups and downs, that they should be equal overall in the area. So when you have a good push, then later, after that, you have unweighting. When you have good unweighting, then you can push again. So this is a slightly over the body weight, then your unweighting is not much up to this point here, because you're not pushing them much.
So I'm not,
Yeah, and then remember 5 at the, this is endopelvic rotation, and then the central mass goes the high position here. So from somewhere here to this point, the central mass is moving upward here. And then after this,
Which is okay.
this is the right timing. And after this, central mass starts moving downward. So up to this point, this unrating is coming from upward motion. Initially, when you try, when always in one direction, if we move, initially we have acceleration, then later we have deceleration in a given direction. So when the center of mass moves upward here, initially we have acceleration, then later we have deceleration. Acceleration is coming from this active push portion here. The deceleration is coming from the unrating from here to here. But since you're not pushing much,
I'm not.
you don't have much unrating here. Then from this point on, the central mass moves down, and then you are letting the central mass drop here. So this is downward motion. Remember, from here to 8, which is the low point here. From here to the event 8, it's a downward motion. Initially, you have to let the body drop. Then later, in order to slow this down, you're pushing the ground here. So this area, below the body weight line, and then from here to here, this area, almost the triangular area here, above the body weight, these are equal to each other. So on the way down, initially you are letting the body down, go down. In other words, you are dropping the body. And then later you have to slow this down, so you start pushing the ground.
You're saying the area below and above the line needs to be same? So I need to basically create more force on the way back, so I unweight more.
So if you want to create more force here, then you have to unweight more here. But your force is large enough. This is too much force, considering what's happening at impact. You have a lot of unweighting here because you're pushing too hard. So this unrating gives this push here, but the timing is a bit late. And that this push is a bit too much. So what happens is at impact you have almost like weightlessness. So you have again unrating here because you are pushing too hard here.
So at that point, what point of the swing is that?
This one, 8.
Yes, 8.
This is the low point here when the club is aligned vertically on the way down. So at this point you have a maximum ground reaction force acting. So that's the low point here.
Okay.
So up until this point, the central mass is moving downward, but again, acceleration, deceleration. Yeah. So this positive side here, this active push, is coming from slowing down of the downward motion. It's not for jumping, but it's actually for slow down of the downward motion. But if you push too hard, then what happens is it not only slows down the downward motion, but it also speeds up after that. It speeds up the upward motion too much. When you have too much upward motion, then near the impact you have again unweighting here. So you don't have.
So at impact, I need to be a little more what? 0?
So close to the body weight here.
Okay.
This is a bit too much unweighting.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to go this much.
Okay.
You need to generate sufficient force here, but not this much.
Okay.
When this is a bit too much, then you have unweighting at impact. When you have unweighting at impact, then this is what happens here for the momentum and the torque here.
And how would that translate to speed? Would that reduce?
The speed is mainly coming from the rotational motion here. Okay. And then this is more bringing this side up here, so you have good distance from the ball to the body here, so you can have clean impact. So the maximum torque occurs before you reach the maximum force here. So this is the torque. This is the so-called momentum here. Now let me explain this. When you use a wrench to rotate something, here's the center of rotation. Your hand is here. You're applying this force here. So then this distance here, from the center of rotation to where your hand is, This is called the moment arm. So it essentially shows the separation between the center of rotation and then the line of action of your force here. So the same thing happens here. This is the center of rotation. Center of mass serves as center of rotation, and your ground reaction force is passing this line here. So this is separation between the center of mass and the ground reaction force vector here. This is the moment arm. And the lower graph shows the moment arm. So at this point, you have the longest moment time here. So the most separation. If you extend this line here, the most separation at this point. And then the torque you generate, okay, in the frontal plane is moment arm times the force magnitude. And the torque is the cause of rotational acceleration. So if you want to rotate really fast, then you either have a long momentum or large force, right? But at this stage here, we still have unweighting here. So the force is way below the body weight line here. So you are mostly relying on the length of the momentum here.
So that's why you're saying it's late.
And that this is a bit delayed. So normally it has to happen here. That means your maximum unweighting also has to occur about here instead of here. Because you did not have good unweighting here, you have to start the unweighting again once the downward motion starts. But if you have a good push here, and almost push the body up, and then let it drop, then you have automatically have good unweighting. So then you have an early onset of unweighting. So that
you were talking about the push on the right, but how is the push on the left?
push left is here.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's a bit too much.
Too much.
Yeah. So what happens is this is delayed. So when you start the downswing, you intentionally introduce this unweighting and then try to push hard here. But if we move this a bit earlier by pushing
A little faster.
pushing better with the right leg, active motion here, then the time here will be shortened, and then you have a continuous unweighting all the way to impact at the top of backswing. From there, this will go up and then coming down. So you don't have to have this sharp peak here, because the time from here to here is short here, and then you want to generate force. So that's why it goes quickly up and then coming down. But if you start, so if you reach the maximum unweighting here and then the forces start increasing, then you will have a bit more time. So you don't have to push the ground that hard.
So you're saying that will also give me the time in transition that we're trying to
Yeah.
get to.
So because this is delayed, so now you have a short time period and you have to push the ground really hard. And it's too much push here, so that you have unweighting at impact here. So then, initially on this side here, you see the force arrow is passing left side of the center of mass. So it actually causes a clockwise rotation, which promotes backswing. So up to this point, the torque is acting in the clockwise direction, so it's promoting backswing. But then once you pass this point, then the direction changes. Now, in this phase here, up to top of backswing here, still the motion is going in the clockwise direction, but the torque is acting in the counterclockwise direction. That slows down the backswing motion. So from here to here, this torque, this section promotes backward rotation, but from here to impact, this section promotes a slowdown of the backswing. Okay, and then just generating reasonable amount of torque at the top of backswing, but this can of course go a bit more when your maximum unweighting occurs here. Then the longest momentum also occurs here. With that, you can reach this high here. So from the beginning of the downswing, you can generate large torque. So the advantage of using the backswing well is, if you use backswing well, then you can have really good initial condition for the downswing. So at the beginning of the downswing, you already have large torque acting on your body. Then you can accelerate quickly, then reach peak angular velocity early. Then you have enough time for deceleration of the body and then acceleration of the club. So, and then so from here to here with the moment arm, and then now the force is rising here. So you can maintain this much torque up to this point here, from here to here. The area under the curve is important. This is total accumulated effect of torque. So this graph shows just magnitude of torque, but this torque is acting for a certain time period. So the area under the curve shows the total effect of torque exertion. It's called the angular impulse. Okay. So the area under the curve is called angular impulse. But this shows overall how much torque is acting on your body. But after that here, so after this peak force here, suddenly your momentum decreases rapidly here. It's because the force is located close to the center of mass here. At this point here, now the force is passing through the center of mass, then you have a zero momentum, zero torque here. After that, the force goes the opposite side here. Now the force is acting on the left side of the center of mass, then it rotates. It has the torque acting in the clockwise direction, which interferes with this rotation here. Because it's going to the opposite side too much. This is because of the excessive unrating here. When you have excessive unrating, okay, the force decreases quite a bit. Eventually, the force will pass the left side of the center of mass, so it's causing torque in this direction, while the motion is going in this way here.
So you would have it be a little more closer
to zero. Yeah. Yeah, so that you don't really have this large torque going in the opposite direction. This is caused by this excessive unrating here. This is caused by this hard push here. And then because you don't have much time here, so you have to push hard, try to increase this force here. And then with this push, the force decreases rapidly near the impact. So this is a typical pattern that you see in the junior swing. So because they like jumping, almost jumping here. So when you like that kind of swing, that you have that image, that you try to jump as you swing, that you have a lot of unrating here. Then the momentum goes in the opposite side, to the opposite side, the torque goes to the opposite direction. So no need to do this. It can stay close to zero. Then if you don't have this, then it's just gradually coming down to zero here instead of quickly going in the opposite direction. It's because of too much push here. Instead of pushing this hard, introduce the unrating earlier by shortening this phase and then good push and then continuous unrating to this point and then gradually push here. Still you can generate reasonable amount of force, but not this much unrating at impact. So when you increase the backswing speed, then particularly this portion will be affected. So you have less time here. Then you will be able to connect this unrating phase and this unrating phase better. Then you have continuous unrating all the way here. Your peak unrating occurs about here. And then from there, the force increases. So you don't have to have this sharp peak here. But still you can have reasonable amount of force generated. Then you don't have to jump, almost the jumping here. But in general, your swing is pretty good, and then the patterns are pretty good. But when you try to push really hard, the downswing with the pelvis slightly located backward, that puts a lot of burden on the back.
So you would have me essentially push a little into this, right?
Yeah. So when you have good push here, then the pelvis will show posterior tilt. So backward tilt. Okay. Kick and then drop the body and then kick on this side.
Kick on that like that.
So almost is a stepping like action. Kick and then kick.
So the unweighting would essentially.
So with the right leg action, come this way here so that you can be in the camera here. So when you good push in the backswing, so with that you have a sense of tall position here, right?
Yeah.
And then toward the end of this push, you can introduce this recentering motion here early. Your recentering motion is a bit late. So almost you have no recentering, but directly go to this side here later. But when you have good push and toward the end, slight recentering, this will give you the left knee bent here. So left knee bending here, then you have a good position to push the ground and then turn here. Okay. Only this much here. So good push and then slight recentering and create this motion and then push and turn. No need to almost this action. So just drop and then turn and stand on the leader side.
Okay, but then you don't think when I push, it's almost, if I push hard from the left, it's almost like a jump, right?
No need to go that far. Just push and then kick and then stand on the leader side. Instead of almost try to jump. Okay. So, and then let me show you another pattern here, which will probably inspire you a little bit.
The most perfect golf swing.
The swing I like. Yeah. He has many positive aspects here.
He's a model swing for a lot of coaches also.
Part of the reason is that because I like his swing. A lot of people who learned Biomechanics from me, they also like his swing. So here, in his swing, as you can see, he's using less than 1,000 millisecond here. So he's using a bit less time in the backswing than you. And then peak clear speed occurs on this side here. Not at the center, but more to the right side. So this is good. And he's also generating good speed here. Top view. These are almost parallel to each other. And then these are more toward the target line, slightly left side here. The swing plane here. He also shows a similar looping action. But the only thing is that at the top here, this is less deviated. But largely the pattern is quite similar. And then hand touches the swing plane and not flipping too much. It fairly stays near the swing plane. And then a little bit of flipping here, go to this position. So the shape looks quite similar to yours in terms of looping motion. And then pelvis, these two looks good. The up and down motion good. And then, so now here, shift away and then recentering motion. Recentering occurs quite early. So from here to recentering. So let's see when the recentering starts. So initially you move away and then already from there slightly recentering here. So shift away and the recenter to this point. And then when the body turns left, then it keeps moving toward the target. But then now when you look at the green line here and then this red line here, so it's not crossing this axis and going down. And then red line also stays above the axis. So this is a forward motion, backward, and the forward again. This is a slight backward tilt up to this point, forward tilt here, backward tilt again. But it never crosses this line. So it's similar to yours, but the main difference is this green line and this red line here. X factor is fairly continuous and then peaks here. Kinematic sequence. The transition sequence is really well defined here. And also his peak occurs around the center of the backswing here. The pelvis, thorax, and then shoulders here. Then the arms and the club here. Because he's using less time on this side. And then good down cocking here. And then delayed release here. And then good wrist angular velocity, good club angular velocity here. And then the frontal plane here. This is push during the backswing. This is more. And then after that, once he starts the unrating, it's almost a continuous to this point here. So here, maximum unrating right after the top of backswing, and then the longest momentum here. And then so at this point here, he's generating torque slightly over man's average, elite man's average, already at the beginning of the downswing. A lot of people, although they have average peak up here, a lot of people reach the peak later. But also the peak is sharp and coming down. But in his case, from here to here, the torque is above man's average. So maybe probably up to this point, if you consider this phase here, the average is probably similar to elite man's average maximum. So he has good torque generated. His force is about 1.85 times the body weight. But you see, this peak is not as sharp as yours. So he's using a bit more time here. So then at impact, his force is still above the body weight here. So keep pushing through the impact here. And then after impact, he will have unrating here. Okay? And the finish here. But in your case, push too early here or too abruptly. So even at impact, already you have a lot of unrating here. So that's a bit too much. So you don't have to push it that hard. When you put a lot of effort in pushing the ground, then you are using the muscles more. So then you can tire the muscles, quickly. So this peak is not as sharp as yours. So here he still.
Do you think that comes a lot from pelvis rotation also?
So when you have a continuous push here, so from here to all the way to impact, still is active push all the way here. By using this, when you use the hip muscles and try to push the ground, then your pelvis has to move more this way here. Then it will prevent going more forward here. So in general, when we push the ground harder, then the pelvis tends to rotate, tilt backward. So if you have a good push on this side here, your pelvis tends to tilt backward, and then the center of mass moves forward. So, and then here, so when he reaches the peak force here, he has a lot more push from the trail side.
So do you think the center of mass is moving backwards also because there is anterior tilt? Or do you think there is anterior tilt because the center of mass is moving backwards? For me.
No, for you, I think because the pelvis is moving backward. Okay. In other words, your leg is pushing the pelvis backward. Then in order to maintain the balance, then you tend to move the upper body a bit forward and then going backward. Then your back goes like this instead of going more this way. So he has a good push here, and then continuous unrating here, and then from there push, and then he has more time from here to peak here. So this is gradually increasing. So you don't have to push really hard, and then keep pushing, maintain this active push through the impact here, rather than having a lot of unrating here. So even though his torque decreases here, but still it stays around 0. It never goes down this much here. And then the momentum the same here. So always in his case, the force is pretty much staying in front of the center of mass here. And then he's standing on the lead side here, instead of having a lot of unrating there. Yeah. So that's some difference. Yeah. So all you need to is probably developing good rhythm. So using the rhythm, speed up the backswing a bit more, but then using that wind up and then just the throw, instead of try to push the ground really
Spend a little
hard
more
with
time
this.
on the
Yeah.
ground.
See, and then swing. So we'll practice the so-called two-step swing.